this episode, I'm going to show you how I made this knife sheath.
Thanks for coming by. Well, you know what? You're just in time because I would like to show you what I've been working on here. I've been working on a knife sheath that I made for a friend of mine. He told me one night that he had a problem with this leather sheath he had made for his knife, that when he turned it upside down, the knife would fall out. So anyway, later on when I got home, I got an idea. I'll use an overhead projector to illustrate. So, sketching it out, I think I can design an inner sheath which can be made out of plastic. The knife should slip easy in and out of the sheath, but hold on to it tight enough to prevent slippage. I can do this by making the top layer of the sheath thin so it will flex around the blade when the knife is inserted. This should hold the knife in place when turned upside down. Small circular rings are placed around the perimeter so a leather cover can be sewn to it. So I'm going to use this old beat up monitor I've got up here. So let's see, bring it down. Okay, turn it down just a little bit. Okay, as you can see, the knife slips right into the sheath this way. Alright, so I think we're going to need just a few things before we can start making the sheath, such as a copier scanner, some veneer calipers or a ruler, some CAD software, a 3D printer, some 3D printer slicer software, some 3D printer job control software, and lastly, some glue. Oh, and one other tool we're going to need, a computer. There are a couple of things we need to do before we create a computer model of the knife. First, we're going to need to scan in a photo of the knife using the scanner. We'll place the knife on the scanner and scan the photo of the knife into the computer. Okay, so there are some measurements we're going to need to make before we continue. 1, we'll need to measure the blade at its widest point. 2, how thick the blade is. And 3, how much of the blade we want to fit into the sheath. Using veneer calipers, we find that it's 23.2 millimeters for the width, 2.9 millimeters for the thickness, and 96.5 millimeters for how far we want the blade to fit into the sheath. Okay, so now if I can have your undivided attention for the next 12 hours, I will be giving in-depth tutorials on all these tools.
Oh, excuse me, boss?
Yes, Igor?
Pardon my interruption.
That's okay.
But I think we could cut down on that 12 hours.
Oh, how?
How about just showing the high-level steps? Then, if anyone wants more details, they can find it themselves on the web.
Well, thanks, Igor. I appreciate that. You know, that's a great idea. So that's just what I'll do. I'll be showing high-level steps only, so if you want more information, I'll place some web links in the show notes. Just click on Show More below. So let's get rid of all these. Now we need the computer. Now let's bring up the CAD software. Taking Igor's advice, I'm going to speed through this very quickly. What we want from the CAD software is a 3D model that we can open up in the slicer software. The 3D model will be made up of two pieces, a top and a bottom piece. First, we'll design the top piece. Now, we'll design the bottom piece. We need to save each piece in its own separate file. So we'll save the top piece in a file called top.stl. The bottom piece is saved in a file called bottom.stl. All right, so now to 3D print the sheath, we first have to process the top and bottom pieces separately using the slicer software. Once each piece has been sliced, we can then 3D print the top and bottom pieces and join them together to make a completed knife sheath. So now let's bring up the slicer software. First, let's slice up the top.stl file. We'll save the sliced top layers in a file called top.gcode. Now let's slice up the bottom.stl file. We'll save the sliced bottom layers in a file called bottom.gcode. Finally, we're ready to print the knife sheath. To do this, we're going to need the computer, the 3D printer, and the job control software. The top and bottom pieces are going to be printed separately and at different times. To illustrate the 3D printing process, I made a time-lapse video. The time-lapse screen is split in half. On the lower left side, there is a video of the job control software with the top.gcode file opened, and the upper left side shows a video of the 3D printer printing the top.gcode file. The right side of the screen is set up in exactly the same way, except the bottom.gcode file is used instead. So, here we go. The top piece looks like it printed okay, so we'll detach it from the printer bed. The bottom piece looks okay too, so we'll detach it from the printer bed. Now, all we've got to do is just glue the two pieces together. I'm using some wood glue, just placing a small amount in the very bottom of each hole. With the glue applied, I'm going to line up the pins with the holes and snap it together. Now we need to let this glue dry overnight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place some weights on top of the sheath to hold it down, and we'll let that sit overnight. Now that the glue is fully dried, we can test it out using the real knife. Looks like it works. Okay. The knife stays in even when it is turned upside down. Well, that's all for today. So I hope this video has been of some help to you. Let me know of any ideas or comments you may have in the comment section below. If you like what I'm doing here, press the subscribe logo so you don't miss any new episodes. I'll see you next time right here on the Tinker's Corner.